Hello, my name is Colin Campbell and welcome to Separated by Water on the 22nd of April 2025. The podcast for fans of team on this side of the water, of teams on the other side of the water. As I said, I call them Tottenham Hotspur season ticket holder. You probably know that by now. And the cat that got the cream in the corner there is Nottingham Forest supporting Mr. Galt. We'll come to that. Our special guest today is Derek, whom you've maybe seen before, who will be addressing all matters Chelsea. But before we get there, I suppose we better deal with last night. Paul.
I will try not to gloat. I thoroughly enjoyed the game. I thoroughly enjoyed the final result, obviously. I just don't know what's going on at Spurs. I really don't know what's going on.
Okay. Who stood out for you last night? Who stood out for you?
Elliot Anderson, that we bought from Newcastle. Toffolo. Toffolo, defender, kicked the ball off the line, literally bicycle kicked it out of the way. He has, that's his first time he started for us in the league, in the Premiership. He's come off the bench, I think, 4 or 5 times during the year, but that's the first time he started for us. And he just merged into the team seamlessly. But that's what they seem to be doing. And I think that's what's going well for Forest, is that they're all working together to a better, it doesn't matter if they're on the bench, doesn't matter if they're playing every game. If somebody comes on and scores, they're delighted with one another. It just seems to be a tight unit, and I think Nuno's got that working for them.
It just looked like a team when the second goal went in, they weren't going to lose. That was, as somebody who's not invested in it just looked like they knew they were going to win from there. And happy that Spurs have the ball. And you're just that feeling that comes from the manager as well.
The fans turned up last night big time, didn't they?
I was going to say that, Colin. I was sitting watching it on TV and I couldn't hear the Spurs fans. I could hear the Forest fans. I recognised all the songs they sing anyway, but they seemed to stand out an awful lot more than they did. They just seem to be a much greater presence, considering they're only a quarter or maybe a lot less than that of the stand.
Will be a lot less.
Fan base
I think the Spurs fans had sung themselves out before the match with Does Beyonce play up front and various requests of Daniel Levy. And I think, I take your point. I could hear it last night myself. I think in defence of Spurs fans, we're just primed off. How many, it's amazing we'd still get the full house turning up on an Easter Monday night. And credit to the Forest fans for coming down. And I think maybe they were a wee bit wary at the start, but then, why did they need to worry once we saw it? And I saw the first goal going, I want to hear them go. You know what I mean?
And I listened to a couple of other podcasts, Forest podcasts, and that was a bank holiday Monday. Apparently, the trains aren't running in a normal schedule on the bank holiday Monday, so there was no trains running back to Nottingham after the match. So it is a big undertaking for them all to travel, bouncing into cars and travelling down to London. You know what it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, what did you feel about Spurs? How do you feel Spurs played?
Well, I have to be fair now. I had to visit some friends, but the loveliest family in the world, by the way. I had a wonderful time, except for the match. I was watching it while, holding conversations, which was about all it was worth. I think basically, to be fair to Forest, congratulations to them. And I would love them to qualify for the Champions League at Arsenal's expense, but that's not going to happen. I think last night, both teams' seasons were summed up in that 90 minutes. I think Forest looks like a team who are progressing. I think it looked like they have an owner who leads from the front and cut a few corners, but as we said before, it's like taking a foul for the team. He needed to do that and pay the fines to get them where they are. And I thought, fair enough. The players looked like they're playing for each other, and that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Some of the talk about talking to me really weren't there. I was delighted with their performance last Thursday against Eintracht and thought, God, let's build on this. But no, we refuse to. It's depressing. And then the commentators come on and talk about, Spurs were unlucky when you look at the possession, blah, blah, blah. Soccer isn't a stats game in the way that cricket or baseball or the NFL are. It's not that way. It's a game of key moments, key incidents, things that, like clearance off the line or the goal being called disallowed. It's about that. And Forest seem to understand that. They say, yeah, well, let Spurs have the ball as long as they want because, it doesn't really matter. And my sickening feeling was that if Forest had needed a third goal, they'd have gone and got it.
Yeah, I agree with it. I think they really needed a third. It was coming.
Yeah, I thought to say, well, 2-1 will do us here. And if they'd gone to 2 each, I think it probably would have gone another one. And that is the most damning thing I could say about the Lily Whites, because that should not be the case. It should not be the case on our own ground, and it should not be the case at all. But that's where we are. And upwards to next Thursday. I'm going.
Okay, well, look, you're very gracious in defeat. Whenever I said to you, we said we'd bring Derek on about the crisis at Chelsea. I knew nothing about it, and then yesterday morning I went on to Sky News and was flicking through it and came across the Chelsea crisis thing. And it's just, so we'll give it an introduction. I'll just read out what they had said. Amid growing fan fury, Sky News was able to access Vivid Seats platform on different devices last week from London and saw tickets for the visit of Liverpool on the 4th of May priced by Chelsea at a maximum of 80 quid, being sold for £537 up to £2,666. And we all know that Mr. Boehly is a director, I think, of Vivid Seats. Is he? Is he a director and an investor?
He owns 41% of the company of Vivid Seats.
Right.
Nice.
So, what is input?
Tell us what's going on, Derek. Tell us what's going on.
A very, very good question. Well, I'm a member of the Chelsea Supporters Trust, and we got an email about 2 months ago to say that there was an inkling that this Vivid Seats procedure, Todd Boehly was involved in it. So they wrote several letters to Chelsea and Todd Boehly direct. There was no reply up till now, but our main concern was how that's perceived, how that looks to outsiders. That one of our owners is literally selling tickets close to illegal to local residents who are not supposed to have those tickets. It's frightening when I'm at the ground talking to people, the amount of money they're paying for tickets. Family last from Seattle, now they weren't just over to see Chelsea. For a family of 4, he paid $900 for the number of seats. They're happy to pay it, but this is how this touting business starts. That money's going into somebody's hands. So it just gives a terrible look to what's going on at Chelsea, and that's just another worrying aspect of it. It's just a greed factor, So who knows if we'll get a reply or.
Are your tickets that you see your season ticket holder, to explain the way the ticket system works? You can put yours into the exchange if you can't attend a game, isn't that right?
That's correct. What they do is that for the 19 home matches, my season ticket is divided by 19, and any match that I don't go to, I put it through the ticket exchange, and it's sold at that pro rata basis. What I've noticed over the last 6 months, I've had 4 tickets that have remained unsold. So I was concerned there's something's going on here. There's not something doesn't add up. I've got my ticket sold for Everton this Saturday, but last season every ticket was bought up. So I'm wondering who last year was buying all my tickets up. It's probably not the same people who are buying them up this year. One of the reports was that one member had 342 membership cards. So
right.
It's obscene. It's unbelievable. So they are supposedly cracking down on that. There's going to be more checks. You're going to be asked for your ID. They're going to go into sections, just randomly pick. Let me see your ticket. The way they're going to, I think next year they're bringing the digital tickets in, which they believe will maybe cut a lot of that out. But it just adds another. What would you say? People look at Chelsea and say, "Oh, that's just Chelsea all over," and it's hard to stomach. I would say that a lot of the Chelsea supporters has got a bit of criticism from other members saying, "Why are you shining this light on your own team?" You're drawing attention to these tickets, but that's what the Chelsea Supporters Trust, I suppose, what they want to do and wanted to show up. So they just wanted an explanation and something from Todd Boehly, but nothing's been forthcoming. So then, rumours will be allowed for fly out until such time as he denies it or does something about it.
Probably a stupid question then. Is the ownership under Ted Boehly, is it better than what it was like under Abramovich, or do you think Abramovich was doing a better job? Or
Well, it's, I would say our owners are current custodians of our club. I'll be there longer than they will, but obviously Roman Abramovich was a one-off, and yes, there's certain aspects of it there that maybe were a bit grey areas, but it's completely different. Now, the one thing I would say to you, these owners, they aren't going anywhere. Nothing's going to happen. They're there for the long haul. So we're wasting our time wanting the owners out. We can protest, clear the lake out, and etc. If you're asking me directly, they should be looking at the sporting directors, or the two chaps that are basically running the club, Guy Winstanley and Stewart. They're the two guys that are basically making all the decisions on behalf of Big Alley and Clear Lake. And very few of the decisions they're making are good. They seem to have this infatuation, 17, 18-year-old Brazilian potential young superstars coming the way without building up and bringing some experience. And there's Kevin De Bruyne, somebody like that coming in next season would be more of that sort of player to hold it together. Now, there's probably no hope of him coming to Chelsea, but somebody of that ilk, because there is no leaders in that team now. It's just 11 individuals, so we have to accept that the owners aren't going anywhere.
Fair enough. Well, on that note, then, Chelsea were sort of in the last 20-odd, 30-odd years. They're like a trophy magnet. They're hoovering up trophies every year. Has that stopped?
Yes, particularly the older ones like me, the chaps that I sit with. We were there when the really bad times. We have a bit more of an insight to it, yeah. But all I really want is to be competitive, go further in cup competitions, and challenge that bit more. But these owners seem to have it's all long term, but if you don't have a short term, you won't have a long term, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it just seemed to be they're not for turning. So I don't know where it's going to end.
Yeah.
Maresca might as well stay. If the sporting directors don't go and the sack Maresca, I wouldn't actually agree with it. I think Maresca, if the sporting directors stay, then they all have to go, or none of them go, to be honest with you.
A wee note on that, Martin Samuel in the Sunday Times was doing a piece about Chelsea, and his conclusion was that they were wrong to sack Poch.
Yes.
Is that right? Is he correct?
Well, I would say
we were out the night.
That's correct. And do you remember, I was absolutely gutted when I heard it. I was raging that Pochettino was going out. So you've seen, and that's what I was going to say to you. I'm probably, it's about 90% we're glad to get shot of him, and I'm one of the 10% that thought we need to stick with this guy. And I was always really, really disappointed. So we could end up with less points and a lower placing than what Pochettino achieved. I thought he deserved a second chance. But the problem is, the owner, he wasn't to be towing the line with the owners, and this is where the problem comes in.
Yeah. Paul, he was so gutted he nearly bought a round.
I know, that's how bad it was that night, Paul.
It was very bad then, because
really bad, So as I said, I would have preferred that he stayed on
and
got a second year out of it, So we had a choice of Luis Enrique, Julian Nagelsmann, or some guy from Leicester. So I went for some guy from Leicester. That's where we are now.
You could have got some guy from Celtic.
Yeah, well. These are both. You mentioned this 18-year-olds from Brazil, and I do think you lack a talisman. I think you lack a rudder on the pitch, somebody like a Lampard or a John Terry. Do you think there's too much responsibility being put on these young kids?
I mean, there is a bit of that there, and young kids react to the crowd reaction, and if the crowd reaction is not good, it just manifests itself and got worse. The match against Ipswich was a prime example of how it can all go wrong when the reaction of the crowd. The ball kept going back, and you could hear the sound booing and them shouting, attacking. Ball went back to Sanchez. He just laced it anywhere, and that's where Ipswich got their second goals. He blamed the crowd for that, which was a bit ridiculous, but. The average age, I think, is about 24 and a half, which is the Premier League's ridiculous. You need your 32, 33-year-olds. So, unfortunately, Reece James is one of our best players, but I just don't think he's a captain and a leader. And apart from his injury woes, But there's no John Terry or Diego Costa, he would come on, get angry and stir it up a bit. So we're missing something there, you know. Just a wee bit of soft underbelly again.
Yeah.
After every Forest game, if you go into social media, you'll see the opposition fans slagging off Ryan Yates, who's definitely, without a doubt, our least technical player. But he has a heart of a lion, and he gets stuck in, and he's lead them, and he's a good captain, a very good captain. So I know what you mean there, Derek. I know you're just lacking somebody just to grab them, you know, get them fired up. Yeah. I do agree with you. I think I agree with you on that one. Definitely.
Yeah. Is Cole Palmer going off the boil? Talking about leaders, you know.
He has, yeah. I think over the last, Cole Palmer never had to think about what he was doing, and I'm saying when you start to think about things you're doing, it starts to go wrong. Unfortunately, there's something not quite right. And I've noticed even the match, he's playing a that bit deeper. He's not getting allowed to be influenced the game as much. So there's been a tactical tweak there that hasn't quite worked. He did put an Instagram message a couple of weeks ago. It showed him and Jackson playing last season against Everton, ironically, and this is a brilliant goal. And he just put one word under it: entertainment. And left the Instagram. So that you wonder, you know, is there something in that? He's just not being free to play the way that he was last season. There's no question he's lost a bit of confidence. You can see that in his play, but you know, he's maybe playing back in the position he was at the start of the season, and let him loose again as such, you know. But unfortunately, Nicholas Jackson's struggling too, you know.
Well, do you feel then that you kind of Chelsea's? I mean, probably to say their identity, their philosophy under Mourinho was, you know, like a win at all costs kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's lots of that I admired. I remember their defender refused to cross the halfway line.
That's correct.
Because he was told not to.
That's right. That's right.
You know, I could see the point of that. Have Chelsea got an identity or a philosophy anywhere on the pitch, you know?
Yeah, it's hard to know now. I mean, the identity now seems that we would want to be taken down this route of Americanization, as I call it. You know, a lot of the match day scenarios disappeared. The music's all different. You know, the old traditional Blur and Blues of Colour. It's been sidetracked, and with a DJ at half time playing all sorts of rubbish. And that just seems to be taken away from it. Yeah, the old winning machine is gone, and we just have to suck it up and move on, you know. So there's just something missing. None that if you won your next 5 games, it would be everything would rosy, but that's not really even after that. These owners are in charge of putting us in a new. We need a new ground, you know. And the owners are dilly dallying. Could be Earl's Court, could be anywhere in southwest London. It's a difficult decision. Again, I think they should move. Personally, I think a lot of people want to stay at Stamford Bridge, you know, so I could be in a minority there.
Yeah, well, I personally think that you lose an awful lot when you move away from your White Hart Lanes, from your West Ham. Look at West Ham. I think the atmosphere at West Ham games are shocking. It's shocking.
I mean, we are still where we are. I mean,
that's right.
Yeah, I know you are.
And the pubs and the eateries and this, that, and the other thing are still there for the meantime, anyway. And I think it's a great thing. I did not want us to change location. Like you say, what's in it for me? I live in Northern Ireland, but you build up over the years, 40 odd years, 50 that have been gone, an affiliation with the place. And I think that is important. But people who are parachuted into that, metaphorically, probably don't get that, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's where there's a difference between West Ham and Spurs. There's still a sense that that's our home, you know, we can still drinking the bricklayers or coaching horses or whatever it may be. And one shout out I want to make, actually, we're talking there about ticket prices. I've got my ticket for next Thursday night, and it's Category C still, where the status of the team, Glint. And I've got my senior concession. So I think that's very, very good because the Spurs could have stuck the arm in for that. So fair play on that one. And actually, I'm not always negative. I'm very positive, by the way. I just feel some things have to be said, you know.
And just on that, the 3 of us on the podcast, and we all have a semi-final next weekend or next week.
Yeah.
Chelsea have a semi-final, don't you? Yeah,
Yes. They're called. Let me pronounce this right. Djurgården.
Oh, that team.
Not Djurgården. Djurgården from. They're 12th in the Swedish league.
I remember them.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but the only thing that might give that competition a bit of integrity is the final, because it'll be Fiorentina or Real Betis, which are, people know them. That might give it a bit of something, but we need to win it to get out of it next season.
Probably who were envisaged whenever the Europa, the Conference League, and the Europa League and all were, restructured. I think it was envisaged that teams who were just outside the Champions League positions would get the trophy and the prestige and this and that and the other thing. I'm just not sure that the teams that are 15th and 16th in the Premiership competing in a final, if that's the way it goes, is what I had in mind. But there we have it.
I want to say, I've written this down because I wanted to say this. There's a guy saying about Chelsea. He says it's a brilliant quote about the inexperience of the team and the refusal to pay that wee bit extra for the likes of Victor Osimhen. And he said, all we were asking for is up the ages and up the wages, not better amount, to get an experienced player in, to beat somebody maybe like a Liverpool or not to a certain player, and bring the experience of that bit higher. So, you know what I mean? So up the ages and up the wages.
Well, funny that Chelsea were always like, until City came along, possibly the biggest, amongst the biggest salary payers, and that's why they got the ready-made products and brought them in often, Interesting that there's an old saying by Maynard Keynes, who was a world-famous economist, and he was talking about, making money and keeping people on work, and he said the purpose was not necessarily to make money, but to put people into work. And he said about how they had to get on right away, blah, blah, blah. And somebody shouted up and said, well, what about the long term, Maynard? He says, in the long term, we're all dead. And that stuck with me quite a while, because some of these teams are talking about these long-term projects. I'll be around for them. We do want things, and because you want it now, you can't wait. How long you got? Well, wait. I've been waiting for 20 years. So this Americanization of the thing about a project or a 5-year. It's different because in the NFL the teams are restructured by the draft system. And they create a situation whereby a team at the bottom of the table 1 year, 5 years later can be at the top. And that in a closed shop that they have, fair enough. But in the Premiership, where every team's aiming, it just can't work, can't work like that. And the bigger teams will lose their position, like the Tottenhams and the Chelseas, very easily. If other teams get crashed, like Forest, perhaps, if they've got the money, and City have done, and so on. And that's what's worrying. You mentioned there, was it only 29,000 were at the match? Again.
Yeah, for last Thursday night, yes.
So the natives are restless, really. You probably had indicated that already.
12,000 empty seats, and within minutes of them winning the other night, I got an email from Chelsea offering my seat for £60 for the semi-final. So they notice something's going on if there's empty seats. So
well,
why not just give it the season ticket holders for free? Add it, include it in your season ticket, but for a lockdown price of £60. So I'm having the joy of going to see them play Liverpool and Manchester United, which are their last 2 home matches of the season. That will dictate a lot of how we all feel at the end of the season. And not really Nottingham Forest on, what do you call it? Judgment Day.
In the last day.
Judgment Day.
That could be for a Champions League place. That could be a decider for Champions League place.
Although Forest by that season might already have done it. It might be.
Yeah, well, we have the 3 points ahead of everybody else. We have them on the board, and they can't take them away from us. Derek, we've chatted there about technical directors. We've chatted about the manager. We've chatted about the owner, and we've chatted about the players. What is the quickest fix? Is it bring in some experience? Is it get a new manager? What is it? What fixes what's wrong at Chelsea at the minute?
Well, if you were asking me, I would. The sporting directors, if they go and the manager goes, an experienced manager, I'll throw this name out for you, and he might get laughed out. Carlo Ancelotti. I think he'll leave Real Madrid, and if he wanted one final challenge at a club team, I would have him back for 2 years. So back for 2 years, and still a bit of experience into this whole system here and take it. It may not work. We just feel that something like that there. But this, while signing of players nonsense has to stop. We have 8 goalkeepers at the minute. 8 goalkeepers. Four of them are out on loan. Okay, 4 of them, and the guy who should be on our nets is on loan to Strasbourg. A guy called Jordi Petrovic, who played the last 6 games last season, and he was superb. He's shipped out to our parent club or our whatever Strasbourg, and he's been superb. Yeah. While we have Robert Sanchez, #1 clown at nets, and even the Jorgensen. We spent 1.5 billion, and there are #1, #2 goalkeeper. You know, so if you've 8 goalkeepers, what sort of plan and what does that suggest to you? All the 4 guys are all on loan everywhere around the world. But Petrovic, remember this name, Petrovic should be back next season as our #1. So that's the plan.
Matt Sells in the middle of our goal. Matt Sells.
Oh yeah. We buy Matt Sells and give you 4 goalkeepers.
No, you're all right. We'll just keep Matt Sells. He's heading for the Golden Glove.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's it. Comes to wee things like that. There, you say, well, who in the right mind would spend all that money to have 4 goalkeepers out on 8 goalkeepers? It doesn't. It just doesn't make sense, you know. And he's playing this inverted fullback scenario, and most of the opponent goals come from the inverted fullbacks out of position. Down, we can see that, but the manager can't see that. Reece James isn't the midfielder, so all these things that shouldn't be too difficult to see, he's making a lot of these decisions. So he plays Reece James all Thursday night when we're 3-0 up, and then he plays a half against Fulham. You know, the logic of that just beyond us. We're maybe missing something with him, but it just doesn't stand up. Some of the, it really was all his fault. The match before Everton in December, we were 2 points behind Liverpool, and a win would have taken us top. And he was asked at a press conference, "Do you think Chelsea could win the league?" And he laughed and said, "It's impossible. It's impossible." Now, whether we believe it or he believed it, he shouldn't have been saying that, because the players maybe heard that. Well, maybe he's read it's impossible. Yeah. So on your mind, then that's when it started to go wrong. It's absolutely impossible for us to win the league. I did, but nobody don't say it out loud. And from there. We're now 16th in current form since that match, you know. So
wasn't it Gerard Ratner who said laughingly at a party?
Exactly.
All our product is crap or something.
Crap. Sure. Yeah, that's the same sort of mentality. So that's where it all went wrong, basically, you know.
Yeah.
But
I've like Amron, who said whatever he said about this is the worst Man United team in history. How did you go in and motivate a team after that in the dressing room?
No, it's
Yeah,
it's just something you come out straight after a match for an interview. You'd be better saying very little and think about what you want to say rather than off the cuff remarks that are reported and brought back to haunt you. You know, just seems the way of it now. You know, but it's I'm forever blue. So I'll be there next season. I'm going to say I'll be there next season. I don't know I'll be there in person next year. We have a lot of decisions to make about the direction of the club. Season ticket cost. My heart says no, and my head. Sorry, my heart says yes, and my head says no. But I'm talking to my friends. We're of the same age and ilk, and we're discussing it. Well, we're having a committee meeting the last day of the season. As a group of us, we're going to have a chat and see what we all think, and we'll listen to each other, and maybe collectively we'll make a decision there. You know, that's 5 or 6 of us. So that's 5 or 6 season ticket holders. It's not a vast amount, but it's still giving an indication of where we are.
You know, I've already committed.
If you're thinking it, then others are thinking it as well. You know, what is the cost of your season ticket at the minute?
Well, where I am, I've the cheap in the hospitality rescue. I pay 1,800 from a season ticket. That's the hospitality. A general seat, you know, in the Matthew Harding or the Shed, just over 1,000. But I'm in the hospitality end to call it, you know. Whereas that's only where I would have got a season ticket, you know. So. But I love it. I enjoy it. It's a great event going over, and you know, I've only seen one defeat this season, but too many draws, you know.
Yeah.
And it's drop points. I wasn't at the Forest match, unfortunately, but you know, maybe next season we'll see.
Yeah. It's
okay. Yeah.
Strange goings on in the league. I'm starting to think this PSR or FFP is it starting to have an effect in the league, putting Spurs And although Spurs have spent, I think, 400 million under Postecoglou, but putting United down where they are, is PSR having a role in this, or is it just a bad run for teams?
I read a report this morning. It's just the headline. The New York Times report that Chelsea will make losses of 300 million this season, but will still be compliant with PSR. So maybe we don't understand it. Maybe we've nothing left to sell to from one owner to the other. We've nothing left to sell to ourselves, basically. The women's team and the two hotels.
Yeah.
There's nothing. Well, we're going to be fined by UEFA. There's going to be a fine because they don't accept women's clubs or hotels as part of your income. So there's a fine. We've negotiated somewhere by we'll be able to play, but we'll be fined, and we'll be closely monitored over the next three years of PSR.
Derek, it's back to the old thing. How does a fine affect a billionaire-owned club? The same as it doesn't affect Man City. No. It's not the right way to go. And the smaller teams are looking up at that going, this is ridiculous. He spent money left, right, and centre, so he obviously has the money to spend.
Did Forest not get away with that too?
No, Forest were deducted points.
No, we get 3 points. We get 3 points deducted from us. Yeah. And that's what it should be. It should be a point deduction, and then fight your way up if you want to stay in the league. Yeah. And people have said Forest, the only way Forest could have stayed up was by doing that. I'm not sure I agree with that in totality, but I will say that we scattergun approach to buying players, and we stayed up. But we got a points deduction, as Man City should get a points deduction if they're found guilty. And
I think we're all holding our breath. We're all waiting to see what it's going to be. You hear from 38 points to a fine. It's too extreme.
What happened is City will make the Champions League places with 6 points to spare, say.
And they'll be deducted 5.
They'll be deducted 5, yeah.
Yeah, that seems to be the way they'll be punished, but it'll have no material effect on them.
I think that's what the punishment. There's a sense that the punishments aren't material, and nobody really wants to do it, to go there. That's my feeling about it, and I've seen that in other sports, whereby there's.
I honestly feel they have to do something about it. I think they have to do
something and nothing, but
something. Yeah,
something that amounts.
So So is your squad just bloated? Do you think in every way? How many players do you have? That's not in the squad.
There's as many players out on loan as there is within the club, and when you think of the players that are going to come back, Raheem Sterling, Ben Chilwell, they'll all be back for 4 or 5 weeks, and will have to be shipped out again, and they're on big wages. That's 600,000 a week between Chilwell and Sterling that they have to negotiate. If I was either of them, I wouldn't really be in a hurry to move on. If that's the case, see out my contract, and but so and we're in this World Club competition, which is a financial gain. If we get to the semi-finals, you get 80 million. So that's good, but there's no to me, there's nothing in it at all. There's no great shakes about being World Club champion when you're playing teams from New Zealand and wherever else. But it's a monetary.
I meant to ask this off the podcast. How do you qualify for that competition? Is it just open to the elite, the top 6 or whatever?
Well, Spurs have never been in that. You have to have won the Champions League or you're equal over the last 4 or 5 years. So it's over. So that's why City and Chelsea, like Liverpool, were outside the 4 years or whatever it was. But it is your continental or your continent's major league. So that's why is it AC Milan? Is it can't think who else. Just can't remember the Italian team. Bayern Munich are in it because they won it a few years ago. And
so
but it's
what
I know.
Spurs might never been in it, but they might never want to be in it.
It's like a pre-season before a pre-season.
It might as well be an invitation only, that kind of thing.
I don't like,
FIFA are trying to talk it up, and they wanted to get Inter Miami into it and find a way to get them in.
Yeah, that's
find a way to get anyone in.
Yeah.
But whether it's counterproductive in terms of players and being exhausted, who knows? But once money talks, no money talks here.
There'd be a chance for our 4 goalkeepers to get a game,
Put enough money in it, and everyone will be interested for a while,
I think that's the way it'll go. Every 4 years, up the ante for it. And
I think the problem is that, the concept of the world's best teams coming from throughout the world doesn't stand up, because the best teams are really in Europe, I think, and will be for some time to come. The other continents, South America produces the players who go to Europe, and currently Asia, Saudi Arabia, and America have the players who sort of are just past it in Europe. that kind of cycle.
Yeah,
and you'll get good teams and good players, but I think the strength is still with the Europeans for probably quite a while, for my lifetime anyway. So I don't think it'd be more of a glamour or novelty than anything else. And as long as they're playing in places where it is a novelty. I don't think Chelsea versus New Zealand's best and Wembley would be very exciting.
At 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but play that match in somewhere in America or somewhere in New Zealand even. So it may have an appeal. But anyway, Derek, what is the outlook for Chelsea after all of this?
It's hard. Where we'll be in 2-3 years for it. I worry more than look forward to it, to be honest. I worry for kind of the future of the club. It just could be an also-ran looking to exist in the lower reach of the Premier League and hoping to maybe get a run on a cup. The owners they're there for 10 years, so they're there for at least another 7 years. So there's no change there. So I don't. The answers I don't know, but it's concerning that those days are gone, and they are gone. That's gone. So we have to live with that and just try and get the best from them. But I'll continue to support them the way I always.
Of course,
done,
if you
we all do.
Last August, just like last August, if the three of us were sitting here looking at each other the way we are now, who would have thought that we'd all be in the positions we're in now? Forest, Spurs, and Chelsea.
And you would have been thinking. I would have been thinking Spurs, Chelsea challenging 4th, 5th, 6th, Nottingham Forest maybe 9th, 10th. Paul would have been delighted. You'd have been. We've stabilised now. Next year as a test for Forest. Sunday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Saturday night, Tuesday. But that's a challenge you want. That's what you want.
I had to have a talk with myself there last week. I was like, whenever we dropped away, we lost 2 games in a row, and I was like, what's happening to your season here? If somebody had said to me at the start of the season, you'll be in the semi-final of the FA Cup, and you'll be in a European position of any description, I would have taken their hand off. And I had to have a talk with myself, but then last night we beat Spurs again. We come out fired up. And again, I'm back there going, we need this Champions League place. I want it to be Champions League. But the only reason I want it to be Champions League really is the financial benefits of it that will give us funding to keep us up there and maybe give us a chance to go at it next year. But on that, I'm going to ask you let's talk about each of our semi-finals. Colin, we'll start with you. Where do you think, and where do you think the finals, who's going to be in the final with yours? And Derek will come to yours in a minute.
Spurs should make the final. And they have to make the final. And they have to do a good job next Thursday. Because Bodo Glimt have I think they're the Arctic Circle, the coast of Norway. I think they have an 8,000 seater capacity and an artificial pitch. So God knows what the second leg will be like. And Lazio lost out there. So I think it has to be next week. There can be no second chances, really. Do I think? Every shred of me hopes that Spurs win. Who do I think? I hope that God we're not playing United in the final. For 2 reasons. One is we've beaten them 3 times this year and we'll probably lose the 4th one. That's just the way life is. And the other one is that if a Bilbao were in the final at least, there might be a chance of getting a hotel room because all their fans will be at home anyway, So that's where I am. But I just have a sickening feeling about United in this trophy. Yeah.
And is it make or break for Ange? Is it?
It's make or break for him.
If he's win that, let's say you go right through and you win that trophy.
Yeah.
Does it save his job, or is he gone anyway?
I don't know. I really don't know because to me, it's no indicator. It's great to win a trophy, and brilliant, but it's no. It does not cover up what's been going on this year and most of last year. Say year means seasons.
Yeah.
And I've been there for many of them, and it's just, you know, I'm old enough to remember teams with Bill Nicholson, Birkinshaw the General, Martin Yall, Harry Redknapp, Poch, God love him. And we had some teams and some players, we just took it a wee bit for granted. We just never got it over the line, but we were good. Now we're not, and we're not. And, you know, with some good players there, but the playing as a team and gelling is not happening. You know, and the number of defeats is unacceptable. I don't want to be one of these guys, I want them out and all that, but I do have serious issues with what's happening at a performance level with the team. Injuries as well. You know, we're meant to have a great setup medically. Well, what on earth's happening? Why are so many people injured so often? You know, and that needs to be looked at. But our performances on the pitch. Last Thursday, I was delighted with how we played. It was that deep. We got the goal against Frankfurt and didn't really look like giving one away. And why can't we do that? Why do we look so flimsy against the Forests of the world and the Bournemouths and the whoever else turns up to win at Tottenham, you know? So I think that the combination of events will be that Ange goes. Yeah. He will either win the cup and off and go, or he will not win the cup and be asked to move on. I don't see a process here. I don't see a plan. What?
No, I don't either. I get a distinct impression that he wants to go, Colin. I feel he's the way he talks to the press, etc. I just don't think he's in it anymore.
It's going to be on a joke. No, it's going to be on a joke.
No.
Yeah.
You know, he's meant to be talking to the fans and giving us a wee bit of respect. So here's what we tried to do. Here's what went wrong. But you know, mate. You know, if I want to help, turn on Neighbours. You know. Okay, that's enough from me.
Derek, what about your semi-final?
We don't beat your Garden and get to that final where I think we'll probably play Real Betis. It'll be a massive failure. The sporting directors, manager, they're not going anywhere. We'll have them all. We'll all be together again next season, and we'll take it from there. But there's no excuse for not winning that competition. To not be in it next season.
Do you think you will win it?
I think we will win it. I think we will win it, and we'll be in the Europa League next season, which is a form of progress. But you know, and maybe Spurs are bust. If they don't win it, they're nothing next season. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Well, Man United or Tottenham will be in nothing next season. It's not fair. Right. So big stakes for them. But as for Chelsea, have to win it. Have to win it and move on.
Okay.
Yeah. Paul. I'll get to mine. I'll get to Forest now in a minute. I wouldn't want Spurs to be meeting the Man United that played last Thursday night, Colin. That was a different team turned up, and I'm not sure how do we cope. But I have a totally different approach with Forest. I do believe we can play any team in that league and win, and I do believe that we can play anybody in the FA Cup and win. I do believe it could be an Aston Villa Forest final. This is actually, I was just thinking about this. Of all the years I've supported, and even with the European Cup, the 2 years we won it back to back, this I have to say I think is my favourite team of Nottingham Forest of all time, because everybody plays a part. Every time they go on the pitch, I believe they can do something. I believe positively that they can go out and win any game at all. And sorry?
That's lovely. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, it is. But it's the first time, Colin, for 20 odd years that I've felt like that. But it genuinely is the best. And I do feel there's a magical story happening here. And if it's Champions League and an FA Cup final, I'll be astounded. And I'll be camping out in London, no matter whether I get a ticket or not. I'll be going to London to soak it up.
I'll speak to Todd Boehly. Paul, I'll speak to Todd Boehly. I'll get you a ticket.
Nah, good man. That's grand. Yeah, he'll get me one in vivid seats.
It'll be
I won't be able to...
£2,666.
Yes, and 1,000 for me.
Yeah, there it is. There, 2,606. That's crazy money when you think about it. When you think about it as a working class game.
Yeah, well,
a working class sport. Men historically worked all week to go and watch the football team and have a couple of pints in the afternoon after watching it, and this is what it's come to. But money defines the game now. It absolutely defines it. Derek, that only leaves us anybody. I thought maybe somebody would have joined us in the comments section. If you've any comments, please jump them in. We'll talk about them before we go. Derek, last game of the season for you is at Forest.
Yes.
How do you think that'll go?
So, I think it'll be a draw, but a draw will be enough for Forest, but it won't be enough for Chelsea. I think Forest potentially have already have got over the line as regards top 5. And that's where I look at it. I think we've too many with Newcastle at noon on a Sunday after playing on a Thursday night, which seemed a bit unfair, but that's just the way it is. You know, that's a disaster with Liverpool. If Liverpool win on Saturday or Sunday against Spurs, they might be that bit don't care. We're nearly hoping for that, but that's a lot of ifs and buts and maybes. You know, Everton will be not roll over for us on Saturday. You know, so it's a tough run in. But we'll see what happens.
They're not a pushover. They're not a pushover. They're very different. I think.
Yeah.
At the start of the season, we had an interest in the Fantasy Premier League, and they set up a wee league, and a few guys joined. I didn't know. It's between a 2-horse race, and we'll maybe do a wee bit on that call in the next week or towards the end of the season. And recognise the guys that stuck with it. I didn't do an awful lot with my team, but at the start of the season, I had Jackson and Cole in. Is it Cole you call the guy? What do you call your striker? We were talking about him earlier.
Palmer.
The memory's shocking.
Palmer.
Cole Palmer. Yeah, I had Palmer and Jackson in my fantasy league, and I got off to a great start. And then
kept you interested to Christmas.
Just disappeared. They just stopped. And it's astounding. It's just incredible how at the start of the season I thought you guys were heading. You were going to be challenging for the league, Derek, and it's just astounding what a break can do in the season and out, around Christmas. But then they always say don't just try and decide what's going to happen in the league until after Christmas.
That's right.
Yeah. But the league doesn't lie, lads. The league doesn't lie.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It definitely doesn't. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, guys. I think that's
Eric, thanks for sharing that with us. And please, I'll wish you luck.
Yes,
in your
but not too
European
much.
journey. But in your Premiership journey, I am not wishing you any luck. I hope we run over the top of at Forest in the last of the season. I'm going over to the Leicester match in 2 weeks' time. Forest Leicester at home, which is a bit of a derby game for us because Leicester's so close to us. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm hoping at that stage we'll have a better idea of where we are in our European positions. But I enjoyed that, guys. It's nice to hear another approach from.
And we'll see everyone next week.
Team.
We're lining up with our special guest, but we'll keep that under our hats a wee bit because that could be a good one. But Derek, thank you for your insights.
Much appreciated, chaps.
Thank you.
See you soon.
And, we'll see you soon. All the very best, everyone.
Keep the faith. Keep the faith. Keep the faith.
Keep the blue flag flying high.
All right.